Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Alberto Trocoli. I'm the director of the World Energy Meteorology Council and CEO of the Inside Climate Service. These are the two organizations that bring to you this webinar called Exploring the Climate with Teal, What the Data Tell Us. It's a pleasure to be presenting this introductory remarks about the Teal tool. We'll explain what it is. First, I'd like to give you a bit of background about what the Teal tool shows and particularly why it was developed. So you will know that the atmospheric carbon emission is rising as is at the levels not seen in the last 800,000 years. So it's at an unprecedented level. And together with this, there's been an increase in temperature. This is what is referred to as climate change, which brings extreme events like heat waves, droughts, and so on. This is why at around 2018, so now it's over 7 years ago, students started this manifestations with the school strike for climate. This was August 2018, and at around the same time we were thinking about, and actually we had already started developing Teal. We'll show you a little bit about the history of it. So this movements of students is very important, but it's also very important to understand that behind this climate change challenge, there is a huge amount of data that needs to be digested, assessed, and so on. And therefore, we need to learn how to navigate between genuine and fake news that are abundant around the globe. This is why Teal also started. This is one of the reasons why Teal started. And the vision for Teal was that it was going to tackle some of the issues related to the complexity of the data and the fact that the climate data is inaccessible to many people. So there was a need for intuitive tools for non-specialist users. Also, the lack of integration between climate, energy, and other societal indicators was a driver in the development of Teal, a tool that would become Teal. There were some other tools that preceded Teal, particularly the one at the bottom here on the bottom right, which was developed by our team under the Copernicus Climate Change Service. It's called the European Climatic Energy Mixes, where we started to explore how we could show this data. This was in 2016 to 2018, so a few years before Teal started. So the Teal overall was inspired by the principle that if data is not accessible, it's not useful. And so this goes back to what we were saying before, that there's a lot of data and we need to navigate between fake news and genuine news, and looking at the data helps us distinguish between these different information types that are provided to us by different media. How Teal was born in practice in its current form, basically we started this project in around 2018, and then in 2019 we had the first demonstration of the tool, which is here on the bottom right, which looks very similar to the current Teal, although that was just for Europe. And there were then further developments. Of course, developments are ongoing, but you can start to see from this one how Teal shaped, and particularly also from the previous version that I showed earlier from the Copernicus Climate Change Service to this one, again, Copernicus Climate Change Service under a different shape. And particularly in this case, we had the benefit and the privilege to work with different high schools in the UK, and so the previous this version of Teal was developed directly with students, as you can see here with the interaction, and so we had different meetings, workshops, and so on. And we think we came up with this simple, elegant interface for broader impact for experts and non-experts alike, which was done with the benefit, like I said, of feedback from many students. First in person and then online, also through UNITAR, which is the UN body for training, and who are supporting also some of the communication and dissemination of Teal. So the birth of Teal then was made, and the design is a distinctive and modern incorporation of the color teal. So teal is not an acronym, it's just a color, and gives the tool its name and reflects the simplicity of the Teal user journey. So the webinar today is structured in this way. There's a welcome introduction, which we've already done. This is me now, which is completed. And then we have two excellent presentations we'll see from my colleagues. One is Meshach Mliwa, based in Tanzania. You may have noticed there's a bit of change of program here. Unfortunately, our colleagues Penny was not available today, so we have Meshach, who's very also expert, a great expert in the use of Teal, including with the community in Tanzania. So it's great to have Meshach to present some of the webinar today. He will show us a bit of an overview of how Teal works, and then the webinar is really structured around case studies. Because this is targeted at students for education, we want to show how the Teal can be really used for applications that can be used for your exercises at school, or university, also if you want to do an essay or a dissertation based on some real data. Here we give you some ideas of how you can proceed with this, the use of the data and their assessment. So in the first case, we look at temperature trends and precipitation extremes. In the second case, with my colleague Christian, we go through some examples using wind speed and carbon emissions, which are also represented in Teal. And then we go to the question and answer. The webinar has some basic rules. So you can ask questions anytime. There is a tab at the bottom. You will see Q&A tab, and you can use it anytime to ask questions. We'll then take questions at the end of the webinar. But like I said, you can start typing questions at any time. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available after the event on the web pages of the World Energy Meteorology Council, as it was the previous webinar that was run in September. So this is the second of the webinars series. So we may have more, depending also on your feedback. And the first one was more targeted at specialized users. So like I said, this one is more targeted at students, and we hope you enjoy the webinar. Sit back, learn, and engage, and we are glad you are here. So with that, I'm going back to the agenda and give the floor to Meshach for his overview of Teal and case study 1. Over to you, Meshach. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this webinar. My name is Meshach Mliwa. I am a data engineer for the World Energy and Meteorology Council. Today, I will walk you through the Teal tool. I will show you how it works, the climate data it provides, and what these climate data tells us about. Actually, we have different versions of Teal. We have the version of Focus Africa, the public Teal, and the NL Teal. We have 4 variables in the Teal tool. We have temperature, precipitation, wind speed, and solar radiation, plus carbon emissions. One of the strengths of the Teal tool is its global to local flexibility. You can explore the Teal tool and view data in global, country, and sub-country data. And also, you can explore data based on annual, seasonal, monthly, and daily data. And this is one of the example of the video that will show you on how you can interact with the Teal tool. Interacting with the Teal tool does not need a strong background in science. You only need a few clicks to get the data and visualize what is a weather or a climate condition that is happening in a certain region. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, and you can click the home button so that you will go to the default visual of the Teal tool. And also, if you can't find or spot the region that you prefer, you can search at the left corner of your the Teal tool. You can write it there. There is a scale on the bottom right corner. You can use it to help you visualize the climate change and climate pattern that has been changing over the years. Or you can choose a year you prefer and visualize the climate pattern of that year on a specific country. And on the left top corner, there is indicators that you can visualize. There is air temperature, precipitation, there is wind speed, solar radiation, and carbon emissions. And you can visualize the indicators in different spatial resolutions, including country, sub-country level. For example, this is France. What you do is you just click the map on the map, France, or you can search maybe Spain, and then the Teal tool will immediately display the time series where you can visualize the historical climate data, observations, and projections. So these are the temporal resolutions and spatial resolutions. You can choose daily, and then you can see what happened on a specific day, whether it was historical climate data or recent data, and visualize on your Teal tool. And this is country level. That is France. And you just hover a mouse on the time series and read the data. You can also download the data in CSV format, PDF, and you also download the time series or the graph of the time series and use it for further analysis offline. And also, if you need more information, you can go to the About video resources and you can contact us for more questions, or if you need something that can be improved in your Teal tool. So this was a demo of how it works and which climate data it provides. Now, let's take a look on real examples. This is Storm Claudia. This happened on 13th to 14th November 2025. The impact of this storm is that it led to heavy precipitation and strong winds across several countries in Western Europe. There were extreme winds on 13th in Portugal, heavy precipitation on 14th over UK, with major incident declared due to flooding in South Wales, transport disruption in Wales and England. Now, in Teal tool, how can you visualize this event and see the areas which were impacted with this extreme event? Now, let's take a look on the Teal tool. This is what you need here is only a few clicks. You select a variable, this is a precipitation. You select a sub-country, that is spatial resolution. Temporal resolution, you select daily data, and then you select Lisboa, that is Portugal. And then what you will see here, in Lisboa, the amount of precipitation was 76.55 millimeter. That is the amount of precipitation that was associated with Storm Claudia in Portugal. As well as the same steps can be followed in Wales. You select the variable precipitation, geographical view, sub-country, temporal resolution, daily data, and the region you will select Monmouthshire, that is in Wales. And then after selecting that, the Teal tool will generate the graph automatically and immediately, and you will see this extreme event that happened on 13th of November 2025. So the Teal tool will help you to visualize the extreme events that happened in many years ago or in recent years. Now, this is another example of a video on how to visualize an extreme event that has happened in a certain region. First of all, you choose precipitation on the left top corner, and then daily, and then zoom in, or if you can't spot the map of your region, you can write search down. This is Portugal, Lisboa, and then the Teal tool will display the graph immediately. Through the graph, you can see on 13th of November, there were extreme amount of length to 76.55 millimeters. That Claudia storm. And then you can choose Monmouthshire in Wales, where you can also visualize the extreme weather events that led to Storm Claudia in Monmouthshire, Wales. Then let's have a look on the temperature trends in Africa. The past decade has been the warmest on record. Africa Sahel region, which is this region here, which starts from Atlantic to Red Sea, it experienced a heat wave in 2024. Now, there was severity attributed to climate change, and researchers expect intense heat waves to become more common as climate warms. Now, let's take an example of Gao. This is in Mali. And until the steps, use or select the variable temperature, geographical view, sub-country, temporal resolution, monthly data, and then select the region Gao. This is found in Mali. And here you will find an extreme event, temperature, an extreme event of temperature. Then you can download the data and then see how extreme it was. It was 34.75, 37.57, That's 6.884. So you can depict the extreme events easily by using the Teal tool. Now, this is another example showing you how easily you can visualize the extreme temperature that happened in Gao, Mali. You choose geographical view, sub-country, and then you select all months, select Gao, and then the Teal tool will immediately plot this graph that will show you the extreme values for one of the region in Sahel. And you can download the data for further analysis if you want. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention. I invite everyone to explore the Teal tool through this link, tealtool.earth, and explore any region that you prefer and see how climate has been changing over the year. Thank you very much. Over to you, Alberto.
Very good. Thank you very much, Meshach. So that was a very nice overview of Teal and some of the examples of temperature and precipitation. And now we are moving to having an assessment of some other variables, particularly wind speed and carbon emissions. And I should mention also we have many more variables than what you see on the public Teal tool. What we are showing is based on the public Teal tool, but we have several other versions, as it was mentioned, even more than the two that are on the initial slide. So it's my pleasure now to give the floor to my colleague Christian, who will tell us about the wind speed changes and the carbon emissions through the Teal tool.
Thank you very much, Alberto. So, as Alberto mentioned, we are now going to focus on two other variables that's available in the public Teal tool. So that's the tool that Meshach just had the link for there at the end. And before we start, let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Christian Lauter-Nielsen. I'm also working for WEMC as a data engineer. And I've been with WEMC for some years now and been part of developing the Teal tool, and also especially in some of these special versions of the Teal tool that we have tailored to fit specific needs. So it could be specific regions and specific variables and so on. So before we jump into the wind speed, I would like to start out with a little story that I have experienced myself. Because on October the 4th this year, I called my mother and I asked her, hey, what have you been doing today? And my mother started making a long list of the things she's done. She had been baking a birthday cake for later in the month. She's been washing and drying clothes. She's been running the dishwasher, and she was even charging her computer and her phone. So the question, of course, arises, why did my mother choose to do all those things on this specific day of October the 4th this year? And it's relatively simple. She chose to do that because she could see that the electricity price on this specific day was actually, for some hours, it was actually even negative. And for a lot of the day, the electricity price was even zero in Denmark, I have to say here, because my mother does live in Denmark. And as you can see in the top graph here, the electricity production in Denmark on a yearly basis is covered a lot by wind energy. So the question is now, can we actually spot this event happening in the Teal tool? And when we go there in a second, we can also try to look at another event that happened in this fall on the 14th of October, where the energy prices were some of the highest it had been in Denmark all fall. So if we quickly here jump to the Teal tool, you can see we're back here in the top public Teal tool. I've simply just gone to tealtool.earth, and I have chosen the wind speed variable up here to the left. You can see there are both temperature, precipitation, and solar and carbon emissions. We'll get back to that in a moment. But I've chosen the wind speed here. I've zoomed in a little bit here on Denmark, but as Meshach also said, we have global data coverage for our variables here in the public Teal. And for those of you who are not exactly familiar with where my mother lives, I can tell her she lives in Midtjylland in Denmark. So if we just search this down here in the bar, we can see the tool here comes out with the yearly average daily wind speeds. So this is the average daily wind speeds for all of the years in this period. And if we look at the data, you can see we are around numbers of 4.8 meters per second, 5 for some years, but in average probably around 4.8 or something like that for this period. So what actually happened with wind speed around this 4th of October? Yeah, we can go up here and have a look at the daily data. I can then go back here and choose October this year. And I can take, let's just take the 1st of October so we can see a bit how it developed. And let's just start by looking here a bit on the map. So now you can see the wind speed for this specific day, the 1st of October this year. Already, if we look at Denmark, we can see they were a little bit under average. So energy prices on the 1st of October in Denmark were probably not too good, electricity prices, I should say. But then when we run the little time series we have down here, we can see as we go towards the 3rd of October, Denmark and in general Northwestern Europe here becomes very dark green, which indicates that now we have wind speeds all the way up to 8-10 meters per second for a lot of these regions. And for those of you who remember your formulas for kinetic energy in wind, you will know that when you double the wind speed, you actually get 4 times the energy out. And that's why in Denmark we could see very, very low electricity prices on this specific day. Hence why my mother chose to do everything electricity-wise she could that day in order to save money, of course. If we then continue the time series, we can jump a little bit forward here, because if you remember from my plot here, we could see on the 14th, we actually had some of the highest energy prices in Denmark, electricity prices, I should say, in Denmark. And if we go forward here, I can just jump a little bit, see if I can hit the right day. So this is the 11th, this is the 12th of October, the 13th of October, and here you can see the 14th of October. Actually, a lot of Europe here was experiencing very low wind speeds, which means that wind energy in general in Europe was quite low on this specific day. And in Denmark, we can see we have half of what is the normal on a normal day in Denmark, and it's even fall. So I am expecting that it's a bit more windy in fall in Denmark. So we would expect even higher wind speeds than the 4 or 5 that we talked about before. So that indicates that there's been very little wind energy production, and hence also why the electricity prices were some of the highest in Denmark at that point. Of course, it's also, I mean, energy system in Europe is interlinked between countries, so it also plays a big role that a lot of other countries, England, Sweden also has a lot of wind energy installed now. They were also experiencing very low wind speeds, which meant that their electricity production from wind was also very low, and that drove the general prices up also in Denmark. And I guess if you start looking into solar also, you would probably see that there were not a lot of solar being produced. It's also fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. So in October 15 this far north, you are also already not producing a lot of solar energy. We are more depending on wind in fall and winter. So that is one way that you can use the wind data. And if we just jump real quick back here, I think you saw here on my slide that Denmark actually now has something close to 60% of their electricity produced coming from wind energy. And that actually plays a very big role in something else, in another variable that we have here, which is the carbon emissions on a country level. So if we again here pick Denmark, you will be able to see relatively clear that Denmark seems to have peaked in their yearly carbon emissions. So these are the yearly carbon emissions in megatons. So you can see Denmark probably peaked somewhere in the late 90s. And that is to a big degree also because of all the wind energy that is installed in Denmark and has been installed over the last years. But actually, if we look at different countries here in Europe, we can see that the picture is relatively similar. A lot of countries seems to have peaked in their carbon emissions. For some countries, historical events are of course very clear. There's a world war here, there's another world war here. And you can see Germany, for example, after Second World War, they went into recession, and yeah, that seems a very efficient way to lower your carbon emissions, but probably not the most sustainable for a country. But it's there in the data, and you can see it very clearly. For Russia, you can also see after '89 the dip they went down there after the USSR fell. But if we then move a little bit more over towards Asia and other countries in the East, you can see for Turkey here, for example, the curve doesn't seem to have peaked. And if we pick, for example, China, or we pick India, for example, you can see that the curve doesn't seem to have peaked yet, because they are also still improving their living standards and in general emitting more. It's of course also linked to the fact that we are importing a lot of things from Asia that's being produced there. Another little fun thing is that you can see probably the 2020 dip here for the COVID, which led to some lockdowns and some lowering in carbon emissions. But again, also not probably the most sustainable way of lowering your carbon emissions. And actually the picture is relatively similar. If we move around the map, you would be able to see that developing countries in Africa are probably still on the rise, still haven't peaked. And of course, with some exceptions in Africa, South Africa has most likely already seen their peak in carbon emissions. But in general, you can see the image here for each country when you look at the carbon emission data. Another thing you can do, which I think Meshach also mentioned right now, is that if you're interested in it, you can click this button down here in the corner, which will allow you to download a CSV file from all the countries in the world. And we can just have a quick look here at it. So this here is basically the data you just saw illustrated. So each column here represents a country. And for some countries, of course, we have data back to 1750, and for others, data only comes later for carbon emissions here. But basically all the data is there for all the countries. So they are free to play around with if you wished so. You could, for example, add a column here and say something like sum up all the rows here. If we just quickly go to the end, then we have here. Then you get a sum of all the countries in the world, and then we could go down to 24 here, add it together with the yearly column here, and then you could make yourself a graph that probably a lot of us has seen before, which is the yearly emissions. I should say that this is country level emissions, transportation and things like that are not included. But the general trend here is probably a trend that I think a lot of us have seen earlier in time. And then if you wanted, you could actually jump back to the Teal tool, and you could go and take the temperature. In this case, we do have temperature already globally aggregated here. So you could take the global temperature. You could again download yourself a file. You could open your file again. So now you can see now we have our global temperature data here, which you can then do exactly the same with, plot it as a graph if you wished so at least. And you could see, one of the other very famous graph that a lot of us has probably seen in this specific texture. So there we are. And you could compare your two graphs, and you could probably see something that we have seen a lot in the recent years of these rising emissions and rising temperature trends. So I think those were my words. I will not save this one here. Just to say that these two variables are also available in the Teal tool, and you are of course very welcome, as Meshach said, to go in and play around with them. You can go to the country level, and you can go sub-country level for most variables and have a look, and you can spot these extreme events for whatever you're interested in. Or you can get data that you want to use on a daily scale in order to maybe try to predict energy prices or whatever is of your interest. But the data is there, and we are very happy to get input from you guys when you use it also, and see what you see is missing and what you find is good. And of course, if you are able to spot any difficulties in the app, we're also very happy to hear from that. This has been made as an available source that we really hope will grow as a community, that we can get a lot of input from users, and we are also probably going to develop a little bit further in the future. So that was the presentation from my side. So I will jump back to you, Alberto.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Christian. And it was very nice to see some practical uses of the data with your spreadsheets on the fly, with the charts. Very good skills. And it was also good to learn about how savvy your mom is on the use of electricity. And so, yeah, that sounds pretty advanced for many, but I guess many people in Denmark are like that.
If you ever need a price on, ever need help, sorry, on balancing the energy market, then you should contact my mother with her solar panels on her roof and everything. She's good at balancing, at least. Let's put it like that.
And then we can commission also some cake during the low prices of electricity. Good. Okay, so we are now at the end, a little earlier than expected, with the second presentation of the case study. So we have a little bit more time for questions, and depending on number of questions, we can go to the hour or finish a little sooner. But we have now back the three of us with questions that have arrived, and so we start to address questions. Thanks for those who have already posted them. We'll, like I said, go through them now and keep asking questions so we can cover them as we go. So we'll start from the first one, which is can the Teal tool also display other data than any other numerical data? So in this case, I think it was mentioned that Teal tool historical data are based mainly on ERA 5, the reanalysis from ECNWF, ERA 5, but not only. For temperature, for example, we also have data from the CREW, the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia in the UK, which is done together with the UK Met Office. And also for the projections, then we have the CMIP6 data, so standard projection data used for the International Panel for Climate Change reports, the IPCC reports. But we have used Teal can upload any type of data, basically. It's as long as it's geo-referenced, and we can then compute the averages over different areas through shapefiles. I don't know if this is a question from Salah Zainab. So thanks, Salah Zainab, for the question. Christian, I don't know if you want to add anything, Meshach.
I can just quickly add some examples of what we have of other variables. I mean, we've calculated onset of rainy seasons for areas in Africa. We have energy indicators that we've done for specific versions of Teals. So yeah, as you say, Alberto, it's basically any data that's geographically referenced and is numerical. we can upload.
Yes, very good. So this was answered. We go to a question from Mohamed Rezaye. So thanks for the exciting webinar and the useful tool. I'm wondering how accurate the data is going to be for Afghanistan, and can we use the data for academic purposes? Again, I don't know, Christian, you want to?
Sorry, yeah, I can quickly maybe answer. You already made the comment, Alberto, that we get a lot of this historical data from ERA 5 reanalysis. So to the degree that ERA 5 reanalysis is accurate for Afghanistan, I am not an expert there. There are probably studies that have looked at that. But to the degree that that is accurate, then yes, it is accurate for Afghanistan. Of course, these reanalysis data sets are always, not always, but they're often better in part of the world where you have a lot of observation data and things like that, and you also have more chances than to verify the actual data. I am, again, not an expert in Afghanistan, but I'm guessing there's a little bit less data observations available for Afghanistan. But yeah, ERA 5 is probably the most used reanalysis data set out there. So the short answer would be yes.
Okay, Meshach, feel free to also jump in if you like to complement what has been said. And yeah, just again to reinforce what Christian said, and ERA 5 is most widely used reanalysis because it provides a complete data set of the data of climate data back to 1940. On Teal 2 we have from 1950, but it's available also from 1940. We'll update it in the future, going back to another 10 years, and it's uninterrupted time series. And so that's the usefulness of this data set. In about a year, there's going to be the new version of reanalysis as well, which is going to be higher resolution and we expect higher quality. So, but if you have any feedback about Afghanistan looking at other data sets, then we'd be happy to hear as well. But as a first order, I think it's a very good starting point to use the Euro 5 reanalysis. So I would use it. If you don't have any other data set, that's a very good data to use for academic purposes and others. Okay, then let's move to the next question. Thank you for the presentations. This is Georgios Sarantakos. Very interesting. May I ask where I can find the altitude that this data, notably the air temperature and the wind speed, are referred to? Indeed, this is important for the applications that could make a good use of this data. For instance, the estimation of the wind farms power generation. Okay, so again, I don't know if I can complement later, but maybe Christian, do you want to have a go?
So the data we see here in this version of Teal is spatially aggregated over different areas. And of course, when we take an area in the Alps and the Pyrenees, or any other mountain range in the Himalayas, for that matter of sake, there will of course somehow be a reference height, but it's still a spatial average over all the grid points inside the shapefile, weighted of course. So we could give a reference height, but I think especially for wind farms and these things, you can probably use it as a first indicator of what areas in the world kind of that's suited for wind farms. But for specific locations, you would need higher resolution data sets. Normally, when you place wind farms and things like that, you run localized what's called WRF models and things like that, in order to see where is the optimal location of the actual individual turbines and so on compared to mountains and things like that. And I think it leads a little bit to another question further down, that we don't have individual cities at the moment. For example, we only do have these spatial aggregated areas. So we don't at this moment at least have individual city data available. It's something that for some of the other Teal2s, I think we actually have some versions that use grid point locations and things like that. So it's something we already have implemented, but in the public version here, we don't have it running at the moment. Yeah, then maybe you can complement Alberto.
Yes. Yeah, no, thanks, Christian. So yeah, basically the data that we are using are the standard variables. So temperature normally is referred to 2 meter, wind speed 10 meter height, and we are also developing for the Copernicus Climate Change Service a version of Teal which includes energy variables, so the wind power capacity factor, solar power capacity factor, and those will be computed using different wind turbines, so different heights. So there's, for example, 83 meters, I think, or 85, I can't remember, 100 meter, 130, and so you can see how that differs for different levels, as well as for solar, for hydropower, if you're interested, and energy demand.
And actually,
sorry, yes.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt, Alberto. I just want to say also for offshore turbines, actually, in that case, which we don't have here in the public here. We don't have offshore data. We only show land data. So yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so that version of the Copernicus Climate Change Service will also be made public at some point. But the the Teal tool that we showed today, it's all based on the public version, and it's done for this webinar on purpose because we wanted to appeal to students from high schools and universities, and they can use the data for free and easily. And like I said, Christian also showed, and I said before, you can use it for your assignments and other little research you'd like to do. And again, like Christian said, we do have versions with point data. So cities, for example, can be represented easily, but even other types of locations, not necessarily. So a city would have a certain extent. So it probably, if you want, depending on the size of the city, you do need to calculate a kind of average, but so it's different from point data. So there's a lot of variance, and the underlying principle here is that we're trying to keep it simple. If you have too many locations, then it becomes complex to navigate. But we normally do it for specific regions where you can then have still some complexity, but only for a specific area. Okay, then moving to the next question. Where are the data from? We already answered this in some way, but so it's the reanalysis year 5. There is the crew data set, the climatic research unit, like I said, the CMIP data. It's for the climate projection data. And in general, any data, like we said, if it's geographically referenced, we can use it. Next question is, in the graph given for carbon emissions, do these emissions include only CO2 or all greenhouse gases? Thank you. I don't know if you, Christian, you want to.
Yeah, as the name indicates, it's the carbon emissions, so it's more than just CO2. It's also methane and other emissions. But it's at a country level here. I'm not the exact expert on this, but I know that it's country level, and transportation, for example, international flights and transportation by big ships and so on. It's not included in this country data. So there are more emissions hiding than the ones we show here, but the country level carbon emissions. Maybe I said CO2 or something at some point. I apologize, but it is carbon emissions. Yeah.
And actually, yeah, for completeness, we didn't mention, but the source of this data is the Global Carbon Project, which is available through different platforms. But obviously, there is the best way would be to go to the Global Climate Project itself. They have a very detailed web page, but in terms of visualization, I think what we are showing here on Teal is quite useful, and it's different from what they show on their web page. And so from there, you can get a lot of information. There are a lot of papers that have been written, and obviously documents online under the Global Carbon Project. Next question, another anonymous. Is it possible to include more factors such as other greenhouse gas emissions? So yes, I'll start, and then maybe Christian, you can continue. So yeah, we can include any variable, even within the same graph. Now we have developed a new feature on Teal where you can plot the graph on from different countries. That will be implemented soon also on the public Teal. So you can have more than one line on the same graph from different countries, for example. Christian?
Yeah, I can echo it and say, yeah, we could also even split the carbon emissions into, for example, methane and CO2. I think maybe that could even be interesting for some countries. But yeah, it's possible in Teal. In Teal, I mean, the tool itself has the potential to show any kind of numeric data for that's spatial. That's geographically referenced. So we could add a lot of things, but of course we also need to to have time enough to do it all. But yeah, in the public one here at the moment, you see the carbon emissions, and I mean, as a good starting point, I think it's interesting to have a look at different countries, and then yeah, download the data. I think it's one of the questions again. As I showed in my presentations, you are able to download the data globally, but you can also, as Meshach showed, press in the plot on the button, and then you can download CSV file or Excel sheets with the data for that specific country that you're interested in.
Excellent. So, and like Christian mentioned, yeah, there's a lot of developments on the pipeline that we have, and there's always priorities and limited time to develop. But actually, I was thinking that if by chance there is a very good programmer here in the audience, and you would like to contribute to development of Teal, please let us know, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Going back to questions, so Otto Kingsford, we touched on this before. Just to close it, please, you can get data for certain cities in a particular country. So again, if you have data for cities, we can display them, and it's a matter of processing the data in the appropriate way, and then we can display it. Next question, Tawakali Fatso. Sorry for the pronunciation. Where do you get historical data that feed in the Teal tool? Okay, so I think we addressed this before. So again, the reanalysis year 5 mainly, and other data sets like the CREW data set, the CMIP for projection, and so on.
Maybe you can comment quickly on the observations, for example. If you go to the temperature data set, you will see there's an observation line also, Alberto, so maybe quickly comment on that.
Yes, that's right. So the observation line that Christian refers to is what I called CREW dataset, so the Climatic Research Unit dataset, and it's based on observation only. I should say that when we say reanalysis like ERA 5, it does contain a lot of observations, but it's also blended with numerical model data, so a physical model which describe physical laws, and it's then combined with a lot of observations. So it's a combination of observations and models, basically. And where you have more observations, then that will be reflecting more the observations than the model. Okay, so then moving to the next one. Thanks, Ali Amjad. Thanks for the exciting webinar. Thanks for your appreciation. Next is Deborah Ibekewe. Thank you for the presentations. I believe the tool can be accessed from anywhere in the world. If so, I want to know how the Teal tool can be accessed. So it's, yeah, you're right. You can access from anywhere in the world. Probably you need a bit of speed on Wi-Fi. I mean, with the current Wi-Fi, it works very well from anywhere. And Meshach, I think, can testify that from Tanzania works well. Yes.
Yeah, the Teal tool works well in Tanzania and the other African countries. Almost all African countries have confirmed that they can access the Teal tool.
And this is based on your experience, Meshach, running training courses during European projects we run together, no?
Yeah, sure.
Very good. And so, yeah, you can run it from anywhere. And obviously, just type the address tealtool.earth. Asif Khan, thanks for the webinar. Can we find other maybe greenhouse gas emissions of country, example, US contribution in global emission and other countries? again, I think the best way is to go to the Global Carbon Project webpage, and you find breakdowns of this information. We should have said, I mean, another good way to display the emission data is per capita emission data. We could easily compute that based on population by country, and this is something that we might do also in the future. But I think it's more representative for our purposes to show the global, so you can see how the global emissions evolve more easily. Christian, you were going to add something.
No, that was to Meshach's question. I raised my hand. So yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, sorry.
Well, you can go back to.
No, but that was just to highlight. But you already did, Alberto. That it's not it's not really a tool you have to run. It's basically just a web page that you go to. So you just go to your browser and you go to tealtool.earth. Sometimes we talk about it as a tool, and it sounds a bit like a program you have to run and install things and things like that. But it's basically just a web page that you can access. So there's no installing anything. It's just going to tealtool.earth, and then you have a Teal tool running as a web page.
That's a good point. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And yeah, it could be, we could call it Explorer or something. It's a web-based tool. And the other thing that we might want to add as well is that we are also fine-tuning the visualization of Teal tool on a mobile application. At the moment, it's not optimal. You can still open it, but it's and actually view some data, but we are optimizing the view on mobile devices. Okay, so then just two questions, and we are nearly close to the hour now. So we covered all the time for Q&A and more. Salah Zainab, can we download the graphs and the data in Excel sheet? Christian, you want to?
Yeah, I actually want to share the screen real quick here. Sorry, Alberto, just to show it, because I can see there's been a couple of questions on this. So when you're in the Teal tool, you've gone to tealtool.earth. You have the option, as I mentioned in my presentation, to press this button and get all the data. But you can also select the country that you're interested in. For example, here, Australia. I have selected temperature here just for Australia, and you can see the graph here. And up here in the corner, in these three dots, maybe they're hiding too much, but in these three dots, you can see you have the option of either download it as an image. So I can go in here and press PNG, for example, and it pops up as an image that I've downloaded, and I now have my graph here as a downloaded PNG image that I can put into my slideshow or presentation or whatever I want. And you can also go in here and say data. And if you're interested in an Excel sheet, you simply press the format XLSX, and you have your Excel sheet. For me, it opens up in this program, but whatever program you have installed, maybe you have Microsoft installed instead. And you can see you have your data here, and you both have your observational data, your historical data. There's the data set that we talked about. And then you also have the projection data here for different scenarios. So you can scroll down, and you get the scenarios here at the bottom, all the way to 2100, where it looks even warmer for people living in Australia, but I guess it's a global thing. So yeah, sorry, Alberto, I will jump out again now.
No, that's very useful. Thank you for that. And last question is from Ninjiku Emanuele. So thank you for a powerful presentation of the new tool, relatively new, I would say, for accessing climate data. My question is, apart from temperature, rainfall, and wind, what other data like atmospheric particles such as aerosol properties and cloud properties that Teal tool can be able to access these properties? Thank you. So like we said, any geo-reference data can be displayed, and we do have versions of Teal with, for example, relative humidity, with mean sea level pressure, wind direction as well. But also we are now developing the Teal for other applications. So we have also agricultural products. We have health risks. So any data really can be displayed, and that's what we are doing with different versions of Teal. We don't have aerosol properties though at the moment, not yet. Okay, unless there's anything more, Christian Meshek, we are at the hour. I will go back quickly to the presentation to wrap up the webinar. Thanking again my colleagues, Meshek and Christian, and also Penny for the preparing the presentations for Meshek. And of course, Caroline and Elena, who are behind the scenes organizing the event. So thank you all for the great organization. If you want to know more about what we do, or you want to contact us to receive more information about the webinar, you can go to the webpage of the World Energy Meteorology Council, so shown here, wemcouncil.org. And on the web pages also, we will upload the recording, as we said. We also have newsletters, and you are welcome and encouraged to sign up for our newsletters. We also send a brief survey after the webinar, shortly after. So we would really thank you if you can spend a few minutes to answer the questions on the survey. This feedback is very important to us, and particularly if you like to see other webinars, please feel free to suggest some topics that we can develop. And then we are present also on LinkedIn, for example. This is our main social media platform that we use, and this is our address. And of course, don't forget to play with the Teal tool. Here again, the address. Thank you very much again for taking part to this webinar, for asking all your very useful and interesting questions. I hope you enjoyed it, and please get back to us if you like to know more, provide feedback, and hopefully we'll see you again in one of our next webinars. Thank you. Bye-bye now.